Welcome guys, today I'm going to show you how to perform CRUD operations with SwiftData. As you know, it's a new way to store the data locally on Apple devices, and SwiftData is built on core data, so we can say it has good, well-defined fundamentals already, and it makes things easier while working with SwiftUI, and that's why I'm using SwiftUI right now. But as a downside, SwiftData only works with iOS 17 for now, and let's dive into it then. So we need a structure to store in our Swift data. So we are going to create a new Swift file and we can name it as item. Okay. And we should also import Swift data beforehand because we are going to use a macro, and I'm going to show you what's that. We have to use class not struct with Swift data, don't forget that. And we have var id string uuid string, and we have var name string, and since it's a class we have to initialize it, and that's it. And we have to use a macro which is a model. And with this, SwiftData understands it needs to store this inside of its database. So that's why we use this. And I want to use this model, this item. I want to get data from that item inside my content view, but how can I do that? Before diving into content view, we have to go to app view, and we have to attach model container to window group, but it doesn't show because it doesn't show up because we didn't import Swift data. And after this, we can use model container for our item. Let's say you have to use multiple structs, which is probably the normal case. If you have multiple structs, you can use something like this. Let's say you have also student.self or car.self. You can write it like this, and with that your container will contain all of these, but we are not gonna use this because this is a basic project. We have item self in our model container, so we need to somehow tap into that model container, and that's why we are going to use environment dot model context, which is a layer between Swift data and memory. In memory, we have our objects and we show them in our screen. And as you might guess, Swift data is a database. So with this context model, with this model context, whatever you named it, how do you name it, doesn't matter, but I like to do it that way. So we can get data, we can change data, update data, delete data, add data. We can do whatever we want with this. So this is a layer, so don't forget this, and this is pretty important. Without this, you can't do anything. You can't do any CRUD operations. To get our data, we use query, which is SwiftData's macro, and we are going to name private var items, and their type is item array, unknown attribute. Okay, so we have to import Swift data here, and yeah, okay. And now I should also display these items, so I'm going to use navigation view and form, and then for each items item in, let's say horizontal stack text okay, wait a second, item.name, we are going to see items name in it, but obviously we have to add some item to our database, so we should write a function about it, add item. Outside this form, wait a second, we can also navigation title CRUD operations with SwiftData, and we should create a button here, and it should add item into our database. Add item. And how can we add item? This is pretty easy, this is pretty straightforward. Let new item is equal to item dot name, let's say test1, and we have to use context model to go to database context model dot insert dot new item. This is pretty easy, this is pretty straightforward, you can get this. Since this new item is item, context models insert this item to database, and SwiftData knows where to insert this item, and it should work. Let's see. It works, right? Yeah. What's going on? Okay, wait a second. This button should be here, right? Okay. Yeah, as you see, when we click to add item, it returns, but you see it's updated test item, etc, etc. I tried it before shooting this video, so I forget to delete this. And if you delete this app, your database should be gone too, obviously. Yeah, now as you see, we can add item, but how about what if I want to delete it? Let's say with on delete. As you know, we have to attach on delete to for each, and we have indices for index in indices, delete item, items index, but obviously we need a function that delete item, delete item, and it gets item. To delete item, we have to use context that delete that item. This is it, context model that delete, and you give item to it, and it should delete them if there is no problem with this. And as far as I can tell, there is no problem. Yeah, as you see, we can now delete items, but let's see if we reopen. Yeah, okay, now we can add and delete item, but also we need to update the item. So let's write like this, update item. It is also an item. Say item dot name should be like update item, and we can directly save context model that's like this, but it's not gonna work since you have to handle the error, and that's why we have to use do and catch thing here and print error. You can If you want, you can also return fatal error here. That's up to you, but for now we are not gonna do that. And to update item, I'm going to add a spacer here and a button which updates item and gets this item, and as a label it should say on it update button. So when we click to this button, it should change the name of the item, and yeah, as you see, it works, and we can also delete them. Yeah, that's it. This is how you do CRUD operations with SwiftData. It's pretty easy, and I wanna say something about this video. This is my first video that I'm explaining some concepts on YouTube. So that's why don't be too harsh on me. Let's see, I'm a bit excited, as you might say. And thanks for the listening. Have a great day. Goodbye.